Matrix, Willie Miranda.
And welcome to the Paradigm Matrix with my special guest, Jill Jackson. Now, Jill, can you introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your background?
Yes. Hi, Willie. Thank you for having me. I have always been a medium. I was born a medium, and I'm also a psychic channel. I am a prophetic psychic. I love teaching other people how to step into their own divinity and remember their gifts. I love teaching. Willie, I have programs every year where I teach soul alchemy and shadow work. I teach people how to tap into their own intuition. We all have an amazing intuition. It's just about remembering how to use it and to remove those fears around it. And then I also love teaching channeling and mediumship and leading retreats. So I'm just feel so excited about the opportunities that we're facing right now as humanity. I feel we're at such a crossroads and such an opportunity to create choices that are in higher alignment with our own soul's blueprint. So that's one of my passions as well, Willie.
It's fantastic. I believe in this synchronicities also, but I also believe in positive thinking. And there's such a cloud of negativity right now, I believe, that is worldwide.
Yes.
And I don't know if you feel that way.
Yes, many places on the planet are experiencing that. Not everywhere, but quite a few places. It's not just in the United States, it's other countries as well. There's a lot of dismantling, a lot of division, but I feel like it gives us an opportunity to really reflect on where we want to bring our energy. We can't be in the same energy of love and fear at the same time. And when we look at a lot of this division, it's my belief that it's rooted in fears. And that's why I love teaching people how to create transformation through alchemy, because we can choose differently. We can create a sacred pause to really reflect and maybe not react in the same repeating patterns. And I feel like that's what we're witnessing right now, Willie, especially in our country. But it does give us an opportunity to choose differently, right?
Yes, it does. It does. Before I hit record, we were talking about our backgrounds, and I know that grew up as a Baptist, correct? And I grew up as a Pentecostal, so not far away in teachings. But how did all that and your upbringing, really set the path for where you are now?
Yes, and we do have that in common. I was raised a Southern Baptist in the deep South, and it was out of alignment with what my true knowings and my true beliefs are. But for a while, we don't come to our realizations overnight. There's a process, right? And I could see the spirit world, and then I was going to church and being told that having these gifts are evil and demonic and of the devil. And over time, I just really started coming to my own understanding that the creator that I believe in is very loving and all loving, and some of the teachings were not in alignment with that. There was a discord there, and I was also starting to see a lot of hypocrisy as well. And so I chose over time to leave organized religion, the dogma around it, but it took a while.
Yeah, I share that sentiment also because I grew up in a lot of fear, and that during my childhood, not fear of just of what was taught, and of course it does affect, it does mold you in a way, and guide you towards a way, and of course, as I started growing myself and started making my own decisions I was questioning a lot of things when I was a child.
Yes.
Okay. So when I was a child, I was already questioning a lot of things, especially with the experiences that I had. So it made me question, what, my surroundings. It really made me not only aware, but made me also to seek information, to seek some type of wisdom. I didn't know it was some type of wisdom back then, but I was just looking for some answers also. at a
Yes.
very young age.
Absolutely. And a lot of the traditional structures, if you will, whether it's school or organized religion or even some aspects of society, really don't embrace that. They want to keep us in a very small box. And as you start understanding that we are so much more than our physical bodies and the experiences that we're having that are paranormal in nature, but at the same time, it doesn't feel evil at all. For me, it felt very exciting. I mean, in the beginning, when I was a toddler and I was seeing the spirit world walk around, sometimes I would get afraid because I couldn't hear them at first. I could only see them. I didn't start hearing the other side until my grandmother passed away and I was 12 years old, and she's the first one that I could hear talking to me. But that was a beautiful experience as well. I talk about that in my first book, which is called Mississippi Medium from Southern Baptist to Talking to the Dead, which is talking about my journey of walking away from organized religion, but still holding dear to my heart my belief in a higher power.
I am going to purchase that book and read it, okay? Because I saw it on the list, and I said, I got to read that one. That's going to be my first one from your series of books that I'm going to read. But going back to what you had said about that sense, that, let's say it's that sixth sense, correct? Okay.
Yes.
And, a lot of times I say you should trust that sense or that gut feeling. It's there for a reason, correct?
Yes.
Now you're from your childhood, you had that sense. And did you ever kind of, before your grandmother passed away, did you somehow were just a little bit afraid of what was on that other side? I know it's
Yes.
of course, the unknown. We're all afraid of the unknown, but was there a lot of
Yes.
fear in it? That you really hesitate a lot, and did you
Yes.
question it as far as
Yes.
is this the right thing? Is this right?
Yeah, because I couldn't understand why all these random people were in my house and I could see them and I didn't know what they wanted. And it was kind of discombobulating to just be that small of a child and see, ghosts or spirits, whatever your term is, walking around the house. So yes, there was some fear in there as well, for sure. Yeah, so that's what was so wonderful. My grandmother connected with me and told me not to be afraid anymore and brought such peace with her messages.
Sounds like you were very close to your grandmother.
I
Have you
was,
had
I
any
was,
dreams about your grandmother? Where she's
yes, definitely back in the day for sure. And my mom and I were what I consider soulmates, and we had a very special bond. And she was also a medium as well. So she has come to me and communicates with me quite often.
I say it because I lost my parents about 12 years ago. Okay. They had been divorced for 43 years, and it was odd. My father passed away on October 3rd, and then my mother passed away on October 23rd.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was pretty tough. And of course, but I had a dream. I had a dream with my mother. That day when she passed, when I got home, I sat on the sofa, and it was like one of these vivid, livid dreams. Yeah, so having that dream, of course, it was, I see my mother, and I was very surprised. And she's looking at me, she's got her hands in her hips, and she's going, "What's the matter?" And I'm saying, "What, you're talking?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm talking." So, and it was so odd. I finally, I just started yelling out for my wife, and I woke myself up, and I'm sitting on the
Wow.
sofa, the TV's on, and I'm going, "Oh my God, what a dream." So I get up from the sofa, I'm calling out for my wife, and I get no response. So I hear like this noise outside, like raking, and I go outside, and she's out there raking some leaves. It's October, so I'm raking some leaves, and I went up to her and I said, "Hey, listen, I completely passed out. I hadn't slept in days, and I had a dream. It was my mother, and she was walking, talking to me, and she says, 'You know what, Willie? That was your mom letting you know that she's okay, that she's
Yes.
fine, that she's fine, that don't worry.'" And I was it left me a little bit, I would just say, I was satisfied with that answer, and it was so many mixed emotions, let's say, and I haven't had another dream since. I know that she was okay. I had something similar with my dad. But I know that dreams are pretty powerful.
Yes, and sometimes it's actual visitations, and I feel like that's what it was with your mother, Willie. It wasn't just a dream. Agree with your wife. That was your mom visiting you to let you know that she was okay.
Yeah, reassuring.
Yes, but I agree with you. When my mom has visited me in that way, I wake up with mixed, come out of it with mixed emotions too, because you don't want that connection to end. You're excited to be connected with them again, but then it also brings peace that you know they're okay.
You know, Jill, several months before my mother passed away, she became bedridden. Okay, she was still able to talk. Well, she had an awful disease called multi-system atrophy. So it's an atrophy of the nervous system, and it's just very, very slow. So it's shutting down parts of the nervous system. And she would tell me, "Listen, I see mom and dad at the end of my bed. Okay, a lot of times I wake up and mom and dad are there, and my sister. So she had a sister that I believe passed away very, very young age, and she knew it was her sister. She told me this several times, okay? And then at the end, she told me, listen, I want to go. I'm ready
Wow.
to go. I want to see mom and dad, and I'm just, being bedridden, being in pain. I get it. Nobody
Absolutely.
wants to lose a loved one, but you also can't be greedy
Right.
and hold on, and kind of let them go. I had to let her go. And of course, it's not easy for no one, for no one. And your thoughts on that, on the visitation by loved ones, and those times, there are times when this person knows that their time is close at hand.
Yes.
Okay,
And
and
yeah, I
go
feel
ahead.
like it's so important, Willie, for us to understand that even when our loved ones are in a coma or it seems like they're not conscious when they're getting ready to make their transition, when I'm doing mediumship sessions, they tell me that they could hear every single word that we are saying to them. And it is one of the hardest things to do for us, like you said, to not be selfish and to say, have my blessing, to release and let go when you're ready. My sister and I did that with my mom as well. And it's so challenging to do, but at the same time, it is such a beautiful gift that we're giving our loved ones.
No, I agree. I agree. And the toughest part is that part right there. That part of okay, let's let her go. Let's let her have her. That's what she wants.
Yes,
And have that respect. Have the
absolutely.
respect. Because I think at the end of the day, when it's our turn, and we're on this train of life, right? And when it's time for us to get off at that station, there's going to come a moment, and one to be very uneventful, and not a hardship for your loved ones,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
Now, you're in your book. I know you have 4 books, and you're in your book. Can you talk a little bit about your new book?
Yes, it's called Children of the New Earth. Humanity is, or how the children are, how starseeds actually are shaping humanity's future. And I started channeling about this in 2014, and I had a little bit of my own fear around it at first, Willie, because I was not able to have my own children. I had gone through so many miscarriages, and I talk about that journey in my second book, which is called Manifesting Magic in the 5D, and my losses around that and what I learned from those challenges. So I had a lot of questions, and when I asked my guides why I was the one to channel about the starseed children to write the book, they explained that it was part of my soul's purpose, it was in my soul's blueprint, and that I had been a psychic child myself, so I understood what it was like, and that I could also help parents and grandparents in understanding these gifts because I've been doing that for years. So I'm the first channeler that brought the term through called the Golden Ray children, and they started arriving around 2014. Nothing's absolute. You're going to have some pioneers that come in before that and some afterwards, but they arrive on the 12th ray of consciousness, and the difference with them and some of the other star seeds, like the indigos and the crystals, is that they have either had very few or no lifetimes on this planet. They've had lifetimes on other planets, so they carry a deep, profound level of wisdom and understanding about technology and sustainability and all of these subject matters that we really could use some guidance on our planet at this time, and that's part of their mission, actually.
I'm going to ask you this, Jill, and it's concerning what we're seeing right now in the media, okay? And I think a lot of places where you turn around, and whether you turn on the TV, turn on a tablet, YouTube, because I live in the YouTube hemisphere or ecosphere, and I watch a lot of content also. Your thoughts on this disclosure, and do you see in this topic of disclosure where there's some different camps? I see it, okay?
Yes.
And many opinions also. I have my own opinions on that. But do you believe there's some type of battle going on in the backgrounds concerning how this information is being, how would I say it, distributed? Okay, and
Yes.
what information is going to reach the audience? Okay.
Yes. And I do believe that there's a spiritual battle going on. We all feel it. We can see it. We can understand, especially those of us who understand energy, we can feel it in our own, auric field as well. But along that subject matter, I recently spoke at a conference called the Sedona Ascension Conference in Sedona, Arizona, and there was a panel, and the person leading the panel asked the question about disclosure, and the people on the panel had amazing feedback, and two channelers that were on there, Pia and Cullen, who happened to be at the booth next to mine and also channeled Palladians, as do I, had such an amazing response that I agree and resonated with. And their response to that question was, why are humans waiting for some governmental agency, who many times doesn't tell the truth anyway, to tell them about disclosure? We know the majority of people on the planet already know that life exists on other planets. It's really empowering to think about that part of our own evolution is to remember our own sovereignty and to remember that our answers are within. We do not need outside people anymore to tell us what to think, what to believe, and that's where discernment comes in. But I agree with you, Willie. I feel like that there's a lot of manipulation going on around it as well. But what the galactics have channeled to me is that while many of us have been having experiences already for years and years, there's coming a point, and I've been told that there is a possibility that it's later in 2026, definitely no later than 2027, but I feel it comes in 2026, where there's such sightings that not many people can question it anymore.
I agree. As a matter of fact, I know this, that our people have been documenting sightings, whether it's with their cell phones right now or any type of recording media, that is a lot better than what the government's saying that they're releasing.
Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of this stuff that was being released is already like old news to me, and probably you and many others, okay, that are following in this. Okay, it's just like, really, it's like it's a bunch of propaganda. Also, I believe.
Yes.
And
yes, it's theater.
Also, yes,
it's distraction.
Correct, and a lot of it is also to keep us divided. I believe. It's
yes.
They keep us divided. It's easier to control.
Absolutely, Willie.
Yeah. I know that you're making a move from the United States, correct?
Yes, we are moving to Costa Rica.
Well, no, how many times have you been to Costa Rica?
Only twice. I've been to Tamarindo and also Lake Arenal, which are very different places.
Yeah, that part of Central America is beautiful. I haven't been there, but, just seeing the sights on video and photos and talking to, many people have come from South America. It is just a beautiful area. It's, and I could see, why would you want to make that move?
Yes, and the people are just so kind and loving and welcoming as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a different vibe, a completely different vibe. I know when I go back to, my little island of Puerto Rico, I feel it also. It is a completely different vibe. As a matter of fact, believe before the recording we were talking about the food and how different it is. Every time that the times that I've gone to Puerto Rico, I have lost weight,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
and I've eaten all kinds of things down there. And why did I lose 5 or 6 pounds?
Because there's no toxins. That's why.
Yeah,
Yes,
I should have gained 20 pounds, but I lost six. It's
right.
strange. And it's just I'm not sure if it's because you're moving around the weather. It's you're in a tropical place, so you're moving back and forth. Up here in the Northeast, we're basically under house arrest in the wintertime. You know, yeah, it's really one of those unexplained things. When you're in one of these tropical places, and you can really feel the difference in the lifestyle and in the diet. That's around you.
Yes. So many other countries have banned foods that are still being sold here in the United States. And I love the saying, let food be thy medicine. It's so true of how many toxins that we have in the food in this country.
No, I had mentioned to you that we're slowly being poisoned here.
Yes.
With a lot of the chemicals. And I worked in the food and beverage industry. And of course, any of these products that we consume, they come in with skull and crossbones.
Wow, really?
Yeah, yeah, and then you basically dilute it, and all of a sudden it's safe. Okay,
Wow.
but it's so corrosive, and I think that's a lot of the components are so corrosive. People wouldn't realize how corrosive sugar is. It's very, very corrosive. Working in an environment, my tools would just pit out. And it
Wow.
was and it was because of the sugar in the atmosphere,
That's incredible, Willie.
No, it is. I mean, it makes you think twice, but at the end of the day, you got to eat. But a lot of these resources too are very difficult to acquire here in such a big country. They tell you, oh, you got to eat clean, you got to eat organic, and there's also a huge price tag that comes along, with those products.
Yes.
Where you're going, I mean, it's going to be a completely different world,
Yes.
because you have so much access to a lot of clean foods.
Yes, I'm excited about that. And that was one of my predictions years ago. I just see more and more people starting to grow their own food in this country and or to support local farmers markets. I know before we left Mississippi, that's what we were doing, is just going every week to the local farmers market and purchasing our fruits and vegetables from farmers who were promising that they were not using the harsh chemicals in their farming process.
Correct. And right now it's being, the farmers are just getting attacked. And people don't
Hmm.
realize that farms are being closed throughout this country. And
Yes.
I don't know how much you follow of it in Europe, but a lot of the farmers in Europe were just like basically doing like stoppages, like work stoppages, because they were getting attacked. By attacked meaning taxed, overtaxed, or
Yeah.
being told what kind of seeds to use. Okay,
Right.
whether these genetically engineered products. Okay, which I mean, it's just a cabal that's running this planet. You know,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's at times I hate to say this, Joe, but at times I believe it's almost like we live in a prison planet.
Well, and a lot of people do, but going back to our own sovereignty, and that's why I love teaching soul alchemy, because Solomon is a ninth dimensional Palladian that I channel, and Solomon says that the way we experience reality is dependent upon the lens that we view reality from, and the way that we view reality from our lens is dependent upon what our beliefs are. And like you said, we have been indoctrinated, even going back to the dogmatic religion and school and the political system, we have been force fed these false narratives that are just not helping us remember that we can have the choice to break free of the control of the matrix. That's why I love the name of your show, Willie. The paradigm matrix. What paradigm do we want to choose to reside in? But it takes some work, right? It takes a process to rewire those brain cells, the wires.
Well, it does, and I can see how easily it's hard because it's hard to navigate through the information. I believe, Jill.
Yes.
The information, the amount of information is just it's like I describe it as almost a minefield. Okay, and you kind of have to step around this minefield of information because there's so much disinformation that's being put out there also. And again, it could be in conferences like the one that you were at, that you participated in. I've seen it
Yes.
myself. I was a co-organizer at a UFO conference. So, I mean, not to say that they had different opinions, but some of the scientific stuff that they were talking about was just, I mean, to put it in a nicer term, it was garbage. You know, I've had physicists, educated physicists tell me, what is this person talking about? That is just not true.
Right.
It's so, there is a lot of misinformation out there. There's a ton of people who out there who shouldn't be out there actually,
Yeah.
with this, how would you say it, in some of these platforms, but they are, and they get their followers, you know what I mean? And people are going to follow that. Perfect example. I believe that some people just want to hear this specific narrative, and that's what they want to hear.
Right.
And there's stuff there's information out there that's tailored to them.
Yes. Absolutely.
And unfortunately, they're gonna go ahead and they're gonna get lost in the sauce, as I say.
Yes. Yes. And
So it's tough to at times really bring in this information. And when I say tough, is for that audience that's really looking for it, that wants something different, and not this, I would just say, generic information or disinformation that's been really out there for many years.
right. And regurgitated in different ways.
Oh, yeah. And when they fall off the cliff, another one will pick up the banner, will pick up the baton and try to lead those folks down or over the cliff. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes. And I've even written an article about this for our High Vibe Tribe community, and it was about going down the rabbit hole. And I can completely understand how somebody that starts the process of spiritually awakening and you start really expanding your horizon outside of that proverbial box that you've been in for so long, and you start wanting to really, you have this quest for knowledge. You're the archetype of the seeker, right? And so you start listening to so many different podcasts, so many different YouTube channels. And that's why discernment is so important, because what happens is there's some truth to almost everything, but then they take the truth and distort it. And that's how people start going down these rabbit holes and lose touch with their own reality, I feel, Willie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in that you have to be a skeptic. You just can't go in and just, believe everything that's going on or being told to you.
Right.
I encounter so many people, so many adults, okay, who would tell me, well, I heard it here, and yeah, I mean, it's who doesn't have a YouTube channel?
Exactly.
Who hasn't written a book? Back in when we were growing up, there weren't a lot of, I didn't know a lot of authors, now I know
Right.
many of them. Okay. And it's like, I mean, I was cutting my hair a few years ago, and the girl who cuts my hair says to me, "Oh, you got a show? That's fantastic. My niece wrote a book." I go, "Really?" Yeah, she wrote a series of books, and come to find out, she was maybe 12 or 13 years old. But now with Amazon, okay, and Amazon happens to be a huge publishing company, and within its own, anybody could write a book and self-publish.
Right.
Okay, more power to them, But that's something that was not common when you and I were growing up.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, so now it is common,
Yes.
and again, I think it's a healthy dose of some skepticism. It's nothing wrong with that.
I
And
agree.
following your sixth sense, it's you could tell when it's bovine excrement, okay? You can smell it a mile away, you know?
Right.
You can smell it a
Well,
mile away.
that's the thing, Willie. Our bodies always tell us the truth, but society has taught us not to listen to ourselves, not to believe in our intuition. They've made fun of it, this false belief of calling it the woo woo. But the reality is, our bodies always tell us the truth. All we have to do is learn to take what I call a sacred pause and tune into our body and ask ourselves, is what I'm hearing my truth? And you will feel it in your body.
Now, have you encountered individuals who have been, let's say, at a crossroads where they know they have a calling within them, or they have a particular gift, let's say, but with peer pressure, whether it's peer pressure, people who surround you in your everyday life, they're so afraid of taking that step
Yes.
that they're not happy. They seem to be, whether it's stress or depression, because they just haven't been able to either break out on their own or have that we have that little nudge, of, hey, it's okay, you can take that step if you want to, you know,
Absolutely.
and not be
And
afraid.
And I feel like that's within all of us. We all have our own fears. We're humans. It's part of the human experience. And that's why I love it's an 11-month program that I teach in awakening intuition. And part of it in the beginning is identifying what our fears are. Because if we don't have an awareness of what those fears are, we're not able to shift our perspective and the way we choose to express ourselves. But it's so common. Think about it. A fear is being seen different by your family, by your friends, by society. So that's a huge one. And there's some fears that are valid because through stepping into the truest version of ourselves, that does create a resonance that is very different. And many times relationships around us do start falling away. And that's part of the process. And it's why it's really important to take this slow. When I teach my classes, my guide said, it's really important to take the energy of the turtle and slow and steady to integrate rather than just jumping full force into our gifts and stepping into who we truly are. Because what happens is a lot of times we have these traumas that are buried in our subconscious mind that we may not even be aware of, that are there on top of the fears that we're already aware of, right?
So true. So true, because I happened to experience the same thing many, many, many decades ago. Okay.
Yes.
Growing up in a Pentecostal household, how are you going to say things? Okay. How are you going to say that you saw this and you're afraid of being ridiculed or anything else, or being possessed or anything like that. I've had many conversations with people who have had certain experiences, okay, whether it's been paranormal or anything that's seen in the sky. Some individuals have been completely not shunned by their family, but shunned by their own churches,
Yes.
which has been. I tell you, I've got one particular story that I won't go into it, but hearing that from this individual just broke my heart, really. The last place that you want to be, you shouldn't be shunned away from. It's your church.
Right. Yes.
Okay, so it's just unsettling, and a bit disappointing, and the way society is also. And what advice would you give to somebody who's out there who's hasn't had a chance to, of course, go through any of your classes, but what advice would you have for somebody who just feels that way right now?
To learn discernment and to learn to trust your own intuition, your clairsentience, your knowing. And going back to the Children of the New Earth book, Willie, the solar rays, and when I first channeled about the solar rays, part of their mission is to bring an awareness to more and more people about how the traditional teachings of Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, some of the others have been distorted over the years for the purpose of control. So the solar ray children have that knowing in their DNA, and being here on the planet, and they started arriving in 2020, they carry that frequency that ripples out, that we're going to start seeing more and more people start questioning some of this dogmatic, judgmental religion as well, and really start recognizing that we can take some of the teachings and the understandings without needing the division, the fear, the control, the hypocrisy, the judgment. That's not what it's all about. And these children, these starseeds, are coming in with that mission. So that makes me really feel hopeful.
Now, you think that that's starting right now, little by
Yes,
little?
I do.
You know, it's just, one, slowly but surely, it's just been, and it's been one of these things that I've been seeing, like you said, it's, the people are starting to push back, let's say, push
Yes,
back against the narrative.
yes,
I like to believe I'm one of course, you are also,
yeah,
and it's not an easy fight, let's say, because, we live in a world with, so, again, drowned by so much information, where everybody's, buried in information, drowning in information, but can't get enough wisdom, right?
right. Oh, I love that. I love how you just put that, Willie.
You
That's
know?
really profound, and it's true.
Oh yeah, it's a quote that I've posted on my profile photo,
It's
like
a
in a
good
movie,
one.
like in a movie theater sign. It says a lot of people drowning in information, but they're starving for wisdom. You know,
Yes,
and it's one of these things that we, of course, we seek. It's we seek to better ourselves, better our lives, better the people around us. Correct? You
yes,
know,
absolutely.
you
And
know,
that was one good thing about going back to COVID in 2020. While there were so many challenges with it, it did give so many people an opportunity to go within and to get quiet. And that's when we really started seeing people starting to ask the deeper questions because they had time for reflection, right?
yes. You're absolutely right, and I, of course, wanted to ask you about that. It's been a different world since COVID. Okay, yeah. But also, I believe it was a big awakening. It was a big wake up call to a lot of people,
Yes,
who have just turned around and said, "What am I doing?
yes,
What am I doing with my life? Where you drive, you have an hour commute. You don't get to look up in the sky. You don't get to watch those birds do their thing. Okay, protect their young or getting twigs and branches to make that nest. Okay,
right.
we haven't had the chance to stop and take that deep breath of fresh air, right? Or smell that coffee, and appreciate it, right?
Yes, yes,
We for many years we were on this ride,
yeah,
where it was, you gotta go for the brass ring or the gold ring. You gotta go for those huge promotions while your family was being neglected. Okay, whether it was
yeah,
time with your kids, okay, time with your furry family. You know what I mean? Your four-legged family.
yeah,
Your little babies, right? Like my Yorkie. I used to come in from work, and she, first thing she's greeting you, and she's got a toy in her mouth, and you're so tired, and you're like, "Oh," and I get in my hands and knees and get on the floor and play,
yeah,
but it's just one of these things where it gets life just takes over, and because of course, we all gotta work, we all gotta eat, but in some instances there was such a huge importance put into that, where we neglected ourselves. We
yes,
neglected
absolutely.
the time, we neglected our health, and many people have moved on. I tell you, I'm in manufacturing, and I've seen such a huge change in the manufacturing world. It was so difficult to get these, we were losing experienced people that would retire early because what happened in COVID. It
Mm,
was it was just like this wake up call. What am I
hmm.
doing? I could earn a living doing something else. I don't wanna just work to live,
Right. Yeah,
and you hit a very important topic right there, and I believe that there's a turning point, and that turning point in this world was COVID. and
Yes.
it changed a lot of people's attitude. Some people say it's changed it for the worse, but a lot of, like you said, a lot of people just started really, reflecting on themselves and saying,
Yeah.
"What am I doing? What am I doing with my family? When was the last time we did this together?" You know,
Yes. To
um,
choose
many
to
things
get
like that.
off that hamster wheel and to choose to just take a breath and be in the presence, be in the now moment. And like you said, when we can do that, we start hearing the birds singing. We start having an appreciation for how beautiful the trees are and the plants and nature. And that alone changes our vibrational frequency.
Well, it has to with me. I'll tell you that much. I had an animal communicator a few episodes ago, Jaylene Laftain, wonderful human being, and I asked her about why I kept seeing birds all around me, and not just birds, like falcons,
Yeah.
owl, hawks, a lot of hawks. And she told me, she says, this went on for many years. She said, those are messenger,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to send you a message. And I believe I finally got the message because I was doing radio at the time. I had the radio show, but I left. I had some health issues with my knee. Just work was being very demanding, and of course, the putting together something like this on a weekly basis is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Getting guests, getting things together, putting in the research, putting in the time. Of course, I mean it's all about the time, right?
Yes.
And she told me, she says, they're trying to send you a message. Now I left the show, okay, and I went and got my health priorities straightened out, okay, and happened to switch jobs, but
Yeah.
that helped a little bit. And of course, over the years, kept seeing the birds. The encounters started getting closer and closer. So now they were just not flying around in the air. Now they're landing and a few feet away from me, and
That's awesome.
oh yeah, it was just one of these things where I really, for a while, I didn't believe it. I wanted to just say this ain't happening,
Right.
But at many times, when it's happening to you over and over again, you can't deny it.
No, you
You
cannot.
know, you just can't deny it. And I had spoken to her last time. She goes, "They're still trying to send you that message, but I believe that message was to continue doing what I'm doing. As a matter of fact, doing right now."
Yes.
Okay. And I think I don't think, I know that was the message.
Yes. And birds also teach us to look at things from a higher perspective. So the message is keep doing what you're doing, but maybe fly above and look at how it can be expressed in a different way, which is exactly what you did, Willie.
Is that another way of telling me to step back and look away from the forest?
Yes.
Instead of being inside the forest, step back
Exactly.
away from the forest and look at it that way?
Yes. Yes.
Well,
Same
thank,
concept.
thank you very much.
But think about it, birds have no pun intended, a bird's eye view
Yes,
of things.
yes.
And a lot of times that's their message
Oh
as
yeah, I
well.
mean that's a great way of explaining it to me. It's and of course I still get those messages. I mean it's very odd in the beginning. It was happening so frequently that it was just, I'm saying to myself, this is just too much. I would even tell my wife, I go, look, I'm not lying. Look,
Right.
okay, I've had them just fly right across me while I'm driving
Wow. That's
with my son.
amazing.
I go, look at that. Okay, it's just so odd. And again, but that hasn't stopped. That hasn't stopped. I think at some point I'll get the rest of that message. Okay,
Yeah.
uh,
Absolutely.
I just gotta keep doing what I'm doing.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
just keep doing what I'm doing. The classes, the alchemy classes. Okay, how are they conducted? Are they conducted online? Do you?
Every week each student receives 3 lessons or video lessons, and then there's journaling opportunities, and then once a month there's a live coaching call where I teach more concepts and answer questions, and then they're also part of our high vibe tribe community, and there's a forum on there. There's a private group for those people that are in the class, and they can discuss things back and forth with the fellow students. It's just amazing. For that program, it's a 9-month program, and Spirit explained that 9 months is our traditional birthing process on this planet. And so
Yes.
the period to be able to really anchor in these powerful teachings goes over 9 months. And we weave in a lot of different alchemy, Carl Jung, hermetic principles, spiritual laws, archetypes. It's just a phenomenal program.
No, from the sounds of it, it sounds fantastic. I mean, I was going through the website, and it's a well put together website, and
Yes.
there's so many things from there that I wanted to ask you, and I know that your time is very limited. I mean, you got some jet lag that I know that you've been dealing with because you've been traveling a lot,
Yes.
and I'm wondering myself how you do it, but it's amazing how we could sometimes compartmentalize some things, and really batten down the hatches, correct, to get things done, you know,
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
you know, no, go ahead.
I'm looking forward to taking a little bit of a break and just recalibrating. And it's really important for us all to remember that, Willie, is we're passionate about our work and what we do, but it's also really important to take time. And that is part of retraining our brain too, because society has taught us, and I believe falsely taught us, that if we're not continuously doing, that we're somehow lazy. And I know for myself, that was something that it really took me a lot of time to rewire my brain to be not only okay, but enjoy taking those moments to just sit and enjoy nature and listen to the birds and relax and allow our energy to be recalibrated. And it's so important that we give ourselves that gift.
That you're absolutely right. It is so difficult because for many years, I was also the same way.
Yeah.
It was just a nonstop. As a matter of fact, I was out for about 4 months for a knee replacement that I had from work, and I just could not. It was just it's almost like an indoctrination, right?
Yes.
And of course, you just, there's a feeling of guilt. Okay, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes on, and
Yes.
at the end of the day, I mean, no matter how much you do these things and you care about what goes on at work could just turn around and say, see you later,
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
and none of that matters,
Right.
and none of that matters, and it's
Yes.
at times it's a hard lesson to learn, especially when we're one of these people who don't know how to say no. You know what I mean, Jill? It's tough, but going back to your website and your books and your current books, and how can we purchase those books?
Amazon, and the latest book, Children of the New Earth, is also in Barnes and Noble, and I believe Target as well. I can't remember where it is, but all the links are on my website. I'm really proud of it.
Fantastic. No, I know your website is Jill M. Jackson, right? Correct? Or
Yes,
JillJackson.com.
JillMJackson.com.
Listen, Jill, thank you very much for your time here on the Paradigm Matrix. I know that you have some time constraints and it's been pretty tough, but thank you so much for being my special guest.
It's my honor, Willie. Thank you for sharing this time, and thank you for doing what you do as well. I loved being on your show. Thank you.
Same here. Thank you so much. Take care now.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to the Paradigm Matrix with your host, Willie Miranda. This has been the Paradigm Matrix hosted by Willie Miranda.